Hello everyone, my name is Christian Eschbach, and welcome to another one of my album reviews. I remember this album cover everywhere when I was a kid. I remember seeing it everywhere. And I remember looking at it over and over again, and over and over again, and over and over again, and I didn't recognize any of the songs on here except for the big breakout single, Unchained, which I'll get to. And I only knew that song kind of, sort of, when I first started seeing this album. I'm going to be completely upfront about this album. I'm going to talk about every song on this album. I'm even going to talk favorably about most of the songs on the album. But from the original run of David Lee Roth, this is probably my least favorite album, with Diver Down being the only album I like less than this one. And I'm going to blame it entirely on Ted Templeman, who is the producer of this album. There's something in the sound of this album. It's just, it's not right. It's like Van Halen was trying to be really metally. Like this album, definitely 100%. I can totally see this album inspiring Dimebag Darrell and Pantera back in the day. Absolutely, without a doubt. And it totally makes sense that it would inspire them back in the day, because it's kind of got a vibe to it which really kind of, in ways, sounds like it's what Pantera tried to emulate later. But at the same time, it also sounds kind of like a Motley Crue album, sort of. Horrible, I'm sorry, I know. And I blame a lot of it on lyrical content. This album, to me, that's where this album fails really drastically, is lyrically. Musically, it's a fantastic album. Even when it's not hitting it out of the park, it's still doing a great job. So let's get into this. Mean Streets. Now this album, it lights up this album fantastically, man. Mean Streets just gets fair warning running on high gear. And the guitar solo that's at the very beginning, I think, should have been put on its own separate little track. Still at the beginning, but on its own separate little track, just to cut it down a little bit to make Mean Streets more radio friendly. It is a little bit, especially for the time that it was released, it definitely would have been a little fast. It would have been a little aggressive. It would have been a little heavy. To me, it's got this cool shuffling, funky punk kind of vibe going on to it. It really works, but at the same time, kind of limits its range and its markets. That happens a lot on this album, actually. Is kind of, because of some of the sounds of the songs, it really would limit its range of playing in the different markets it would be available for. Because of that funk vibe in it, it makes it nowadays, sure, you no problem hearing it on the radio. Back then, not as much, especially on rock radio. Then you got Dirty Movies. Musically, this song is fantastic. I think this song is beautiful musically. Lyrically, it's basically your generic womanizing content. And the problem is Van Halen really bad with the womanizing. David Lee Roth in particular. It's one of the reasons I'm not a fan of the David Lee Roth era. And I mean, I will defend a song like Christine 16 to the end because I know the history behind. But or songs like Plaster Caster, same thing. I know the stories behind, so I will defend them to the end, even though they're definitely womanizing, misogynistic shit. But when it comes to Van Halen, one of the things I love, like with Hot for Teacher, is kind of, I want to say tongue-in-cheek, even though it's not really tongue-in-cheek, but it's more fun, it's more cute, it's more enjoyable. This is kind of a celebration of porn stars, and while I do believe that porn stars should be celebrated, it just, to me, better off with Motley Crue doing it than Van Halen doing it. Sinner's Swing. It's a good album filler. That's what it is, though. It's album filler, but it's really good album filler. Hear About It Later is forgettable. It's probably the most forgettable song on the album. Unchained, the big breakout single. Also one of the reasons why I grew tired of the Van Roth womanizing lyrics. Unchained, not quite womanizing. It's more that breaking free, living your life, being a wild party boy kind of thing. And I love this song. I really do love Unchained. When that comes on, man, that chugging, great. I love that. Love the song in general, but just there's a point where I just grow tired of it. Push comes to shove. Back to some funk with this one, which is cool. I'm really kind of digging a lot of the kind of funk element that's added in here. This one really kind of has a vibe that makes me think of early rap hip hop. I'm talking like Grandmaster Flash kind of stuff. The only difference is being performed with an actual band that knows what to do. My apologies, no offense meant it. Just being humorous. And the thing is, this song never could have been a radio single because of it. It would have definitely have been too funk, too hip hop, too rap for rock radio. It never would have gotten played on hip hop stations because there were none at those times, really. So this ends up kind of getting lost and just becomes a really cool album cut. Then we go into So This Love. Old school boogie woogie on this one. Van Halen always does boogie woogie really good, which is kind of nice. The song is fun and enjoyable, but it is kind of very basic for Van Halen, but not so basic that it doesn't still get radio play every now and then. Because yes, I do every now and then still hear it on the radio. Then you got Sunday Afternoon in the Park. This is some wild and killer instrumental experimenting that is really worth checking it out. It's one of the actual true instrumental tracks I really like from Van Halen, that really kind of has this cool kind of vibe to it. And then you got One Foot Out the Front Door, which closes out the album. I like it, but I don't like it. It works. It closes out the album okay, but just not my thing for the most part. Mean Streets, I don't know. I want to recommend this album because honestly, I enjoy a lot of this album, but overall, I don't like the sound of the album. I have a hard time listening to this album on a playthrough. That's it. Really, I don't know what it is. I don't enjoy it on a playthrough. When it's broken up, I really enjoy it, but on a playthrough, just no. I don't know. That's me. What do you think? I mean, great songs, but why does this album not work on a playthrough? I don't know. That's what the comment section's for, folks. On your way down the comment section, you'll see a link that'll take you over to Patreon in the description there. Like button, subscribe button, bell for notifications. If you're watching this on Rumble, you got the follow and join button, I think they're called. If you're watching this on Locals, it's a small miracle. Peace, love, take care.